Good afternoon, everybody. I am actually by myself for the moment. Thomas is on his way and Marcella is on her way, but I wanted to say hello. We're going to do a shorter stream today. As in not too long, I have another stream coming up for with Brad Feld, where we will be talking about the state of startups in the age of COVID over at over on YouTube. So I will drop a link for that as well in case anybody wants to pop into that. So how's everyone going out there? It's been quite a week and I feel extremely tired already. The big hard part right now is juggling all of the responsibilities that exist. If you are interested in coming by later tonight, or sorry, in about an hour to our talk with Brad Feld, feel free to join over here. If you would like to join us on the show right now, you can also do that. I am posting the URL. So go ahead and come on by. See your permission problem. So how's the week going? The good thing is we are sort of open and not that open. And what's been interesting about that is today I was able to get a haircut finally, which feels like not a big deal, obviously. But after 8 weeks or 9 weeks, I think, of being in here, and probably even longer since I actually was able to get a haircut, it's really interesting to be able to finally, our hairdresser, actually, she came by the house because we had the whole family got haircuts. So we have like my wife, myself, the grandparents, and our son. Everyone got a haircut. Crystal's awesome. We really appreciate it. She's like 8 months pregnant, so it was still nice for her to get here. So I'm happy that she did make it out, but it was good to get a haircut and finally talk to another human being in the same space. What's up, Thomas?
Haircut looks fresh, man.
I'm talking to myself. So.
Loving that haircut, bro.
I was just saying I just got a haircut because our hairdresser actually came over and cut all of our hairs. So
that's nice.
Yeah. And I was just reminiscing about how interesting it feels to be near another human being. Because it's been so long that we're so used to always being just the five of us at the house.
Yeah. We haven't had anyone. Well, that's not true. We've had a plumber over. But not really anyone else. So yeah, I can definitely imagine even that dynamic being a little different.
Well, and it's funny because I've chatted with her just to see how she's doing anyway. So that part's been fine. But yeah, it was kind of interesting too. I think she's still here. Actually, she's got my mother-in-law's here now. So then I apologize already. We probably only got maybe 20 more minutes. But I wanted to do it, keep the schedule going, and just check in and give others a chance to say hello and see how they're doing. What's been new? So tell me more. I know you announced. I saw on Facebook you announced that there's 50 pounds lost, but I wasn't sure if I understood exactly what you were saying. Was it 50 pounds in your group of people that you're working with?
Yes.
Or was it 50 pounds by you? Hey, Marcelo.
No, 50 pounds by me would be half my body, a third of my body. More. No, this is actually collectively with specifically 3 of my clients.
I never know which way to go when you do that.
Yeah.
50 pounds were actually specifically with 3 of my clients who were tracking their weight. There's a 4th one, but I haven't gotten the data from them, so it might be a lot higher than I actually know. But they were both collectively were able to release 50 pounds. Just
he gained 50, so you're net zero.
Yeah. I gained a ton of weight now. And so I was like, it would be really cool if I could just help people who, especially during this time where like there's a lot of food in the house now, and like I'm sure, especially when you have kids, like there's a lot more comfort food that's in your periphery, and so how do you set yourself up to have habits?
Sorry.
Speaking of
There's an
kids,
It's Raining Tacos, as he's saying, the training tacos to this conversation. Excuse
on
me.
cue. I love it.
On cue.
So like how do you develop habits and structure and community and support and guidance to allow yourself to meet the goals that you may have set for yourself before all this happened? You still have a chance to do that. And a lot of my clients were like really resourceful in how they were able to do it. Like I had one client who, I might have shared this a couple weeks ago, like he was going to the gym almost 5 times a week, and then all of a sudden gyms were closed. And so he ended up pulling out the Wii Fit and would do Wii Fit boxing for an hour. It was an hour it was an hour 5 times a week. And he was getting more cardio in than he ever did before, and that actually accelerated his weight loss. So, things like that are available to us, just if you had like the daily habits and the practices in place. And so, my vision is to really support people in not just, this is just physical wellness, right? That's going to be the first challenge that I'm going to tackle, but I'm also going to tackle mental health and mental wellness. I'm also going to tackle the people in your life, your network, how you experience joy. Like, what are the things that you do? Have a whole month that's all about challenging yourself to experience joy, about increasing your value professionally. How do you practice sharing value with other people? Even spiritual wellness, right? Like there's a way where if we were able to focus, even just for like 30 days on just one part of our lives that we want better, how can we set the habits in place in those 30 days that can allow us to have them last a lifetime? So I was really inspired by listening to my clients have those results. And I just got really excited. And I was like, man, like as much as I love that they got these results, they shouldn't be the only ones able to access these results too. I want to be able to show that to everyone else.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I'm curious how. So we're a lot of like Colorado's kind of open now. Well, I don't know, supposedly, like shelter or safer at home, I think is what they call. The new set of constraints. LA, where you are, then they said 3 more months.
Yeah. Yep.
What are you, Marcel? Are you open yet in Jersey? No. Oh, you're still muted.
You're muted. I'm gonna unmute you.
Sorry, I was finding mint from my garden, for my vodka. So, speaking of mental wellness,
by the way, Maria just planted mint. I heard you have to put mint all by itself because it grows.
You really do. I tried last year to keep it separate, but still in the garden, and I'm being nice to those roots right now because I'm obviously on television, but it's nasty. I was pulling it out of the roots this year. I was still finding it.
Wow.
So it's in the ground right.
That's Thomas' topic.
It's still in the ground right now, but I'll be moving it shortly just because I needed to get something separate. But yeah. Wow. But I love having mint in my garden. Thomas, how are you driving the program?
Define driving.
So, especially during this isolation, like how do you plan on keeping people motivated? Because like I'm struggling with just getting, as Greg knows, I'm tied to this freaking computer and I can't bring, like yesterday, my husband's the one that pointed out, he's like, do you realize you sat there for 14 hours? So today we looked at my calendar and together he's like, those two, like he actually pushed me to say those 2 meetings are not as important. Cancel them. We're leaving the house. And we went for a walk. But it's hard, right? It's hard when you're trying to do all this stuff to fit that piece in.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, for like crazy people like us, how are you convincing, how are you driving that through? Are you going to set up phone calls? Are you like,
Yeah.
what are you doing?
Yeah. So weekly check-ins are vital, right? Like that's just a non-negotiable. Like you got to come in, you got to check in, you got to talk about progress, challenges, look for advice. But before all that even takes place, like there's two components. One is you have to realize that like it's not sustainable for you to try to do everything on your own.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is in your case, right? Like your husband came in, you allowed him to be a voice of reason to come in and give you some type of.
I'm saying the nice version of that, of course.
Yeah. Some type of like feedback,
yeah, we're that functional. Sure.
Yeah. Like that other lever of support that like you can just, you allowed to be there and to listen to if you so choose to, right? And
yes.
Having that influence in your life is so important. And so many people, especially now, because it's physically not there, it doesn't feel like any's there.
Well, one of the most interesting things I heard on, talk show was an AIDS patient, lives in LA, and said, look, I'm, 52 years old. I survived the AIDS epidemic. I have AIDS. I've managed with my health this long. I don't have a partner right now. I have been by myself in my apartment with horrible fear of leaving for 3 months. Right?
Yeah.
So, and he looked fit and I'm sure, doing the best he could, but thinking about what you were saying and how important it is for people that are by themselves, that don't have the person next to them that can look over their shoulder and say, hey, are you doing okay? Are you doing enough for yourself? It never dawned on me how much more difficult it would be if you're immunocompromised and by yourself, and this is the only support network that you have. Like that's tough.
It is tough, because then the intensity of wanting that like physical, that human connection becomes even just more vital. And I think, like, to go back to answering your question, one of the things that has really supported my clients in terms of a driving force has been like the daily tracking and accountability. So I have platforms and the things set up for them where they check in and literally track like what they're doing. Like, are they exercising? Are they meditating? Are they feeding they're fueling their body appropriately, right?
So you're using a specific platform, or are you creating different things depending on who you're working with?
So it's something that I created as I call it like health points. So in video games, that's something that's really important for people. If you're a gamer, like you need health points in order to be able to like play the game.
Yep.
So for me, it's non-negotiable. And so these are things that you just do, and then you track them every day. And then when we check in, I'm always able to pull up the data and say, oh, like your energy has been running low this week because you haven't really been doing things that fuel your health points.
Yeah.
And so now like the results kind of show because you aren't doing the minimum that was required for you to be able to like lift those things, And so even having something as simple as like daily exercise, that was enough for my clients to see results on top of specific exercise that they would do, whether it's like weighted training, boxing, running, but just movement in general. Having that daily practice of moving their bodies helps support them a lot, and then being able to put in and say, yeah, I did that, and then getting points for it, right? So there's also, you get that little bit of reward for having to do the work, and then you get to share that with, now when you're checking in, you get to share those results.
Yeah, the things the tools we use for our kids, right? Like still work for us as adults.
Yeah.
Like point systems and star systems, and that mentality of that check-in. It's amazing to me that it works across the board.
Yeah, it just feeds into what we really want, which is like achievement and validation and some level of like, I did it, like pride, even if it's just us, right? Even if it's just personally, internally. But then when you scale it, whether it's inside of like a squad, like a group of guys that I have inside of, you know, my program, or if it's on a more public level, right? Think about the privacy levels on Facebook, right? That's actually kind of like how well you can scale the emotion that you want to experience, right? It could be just you privately. It could be you and your friends. It could be your friends of your friends, or it could just be completely public, right? Like just like this talk is right now. So the more you incentivize that, like the more it actually does motivate people to say, yeah, like I want to do as well. I want to do as well as like the other people in my squad, or I want to see, you know, those type of results in my life like I see other people. And so this is where social comparison can actually be positive for people in a way that it keeps them motivated if the structure is in place for them to see it that way, as opposed to like going on Instagram and seeing everyone in their beach bodies, and you're like, I can't even go to the beach, let alone maintain a body that's fit for the beach. you're not going to feel so great about your ability to actually do it.
You're pointing it out as a measurement, right?
Yeah.
I think absolutely right. Like as we've said, like the more you measure things, there's a point of diminishing returns in measuring things, right? But certainly like the finger in the air model is not like the accountable sort of model, right? Like it's also like why making a list like I see people do this and they're very successful with this. Like to do apps don't work nearly as well for most people as like every morning making a list or every night making a list and then just literally.
That's me.
Yeah.
I still have like the old Covey method. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
From like the Covey planning books. I have a notebook and
what's a planning book?
I'm telling you, it's crazy. And like, you know, we're in MarTech. Like people are always surprised, like, oh, you don't have a, you know, fancy pen that you write. I'm like, no, I need my notebook. I get up in the morning, I cross off, I put a little forward mark next to it.
It's just more rewarding.
I just
cross it off, right? Like,
and I like seeing my handwriting. It still feels personal. I don't know. So
there's something magical about like these ideas and these desires that start in the brain and actually run through your arm, and it comes out in physical, readable, legible form that makes it like this is real. Like this could happen today. This is going to happen today because I wrote it down. Not it goes beyond just like thinking it or even just saying it. It's like it's written down. Like this is going to happen, and then like Greg said, like the satisfaction of crossing or checking or Xing is just like, oh, it gives you that power. That it's like, what else can I do? What other outcomes can I create just by writing it down?
So I'm sorry I missed the beginning of the conversation because I hadn't brushed my hair yet today. What's interesting to me about all of this is, and I just was on a podcast and they were like, oh, what's your daily routine and tell us your magic. And I wanted to be one of those people that, you know, gets up and like Greg goes and works out first and then he sits down. I'd love to hear about what you found in all of the different people that you talked to, where there's a disconnect. People like me that are like very focused on business and mothering and everything else, but I never get to me. I don't get to me from a physical perspective. I just can't do it. I want to. I used to box. I used to do yoga. I lost the weight, so I'm like happy-ish with my weight. That's fine, but I cannot seem to find that moment and put that on the task list. And even if I do, I don't do it.
I call bullshit.
No, please. No, I think that's why I'm asking.
You clearly have the ability to do the things you know you need to do because you get them done every day, right? What it seems like is you haven't arrived yet at the place where you need to do this thing, right? So like that's the difference, right? Like now when I get up, like I got up at 4:30 this morning.
I knew you'd say that.
I came down to do my workout, but we also have a bed in that room, and I like laid there in between sets. Like it took me like 2 hours to do half an hour of working out. So for me, it was like I'm gonna do it. I have till 7 before I have to shower and get ready for like all the other stuff. But I think what you're saying is it hasn't reached the level of necessity in your own version of, or like prioritization list for it to be there, right? Like everything that's not, and the problem is this, is that like people like us, the more busy you are, we sort the world out into musts, right? And to nice to haves, right? And as long as the thing that you are saying you can't do isn't a nice to have thing, do it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's binary.
Yeah, it's true. And like motivation is derived by two different types of value, right? There's intrinsic value, which is like your own personal fulfillment and fun and joy and satisfaction by doing it anyways. Like it doesn't even matter what it looks like. Doesn't matter if you're doing it right. You're just doing it for the love of it. It puts you in this free flow state that like when you talk about it, you can't really describe it, right? It's like you black out because you're just in it, right? Time stops, the whole thing. And then there's the extrinsic value, which is like the aesthetic part. Like, what does it look like?
I look
right?
good.
The satisfaction, right? The value of either of those things isn't as high right now as the value of you, what you do as a mom or what you do for business, right? Like you can clearly make that connection between the extrinsic value is obvious with being a mom and running a business. Like those things are obvious, but the intrinsic value, that's where you get to go a little deeper and find out like how valuable is business in comparison to working out or taking care of my body to the level that I know that I'm capable of.
Well, it's interesting you talked about the buckets, Greg, because so pre-COVID, I was going to acupuncture. I get migraines, constant migraines. I found a solution and acupuncture, whatever. That was on my must-have list every other week. And so now without it, I'm back to this really bad cycle of migraines. And I know the answer sits with working out and yoga to at least minimize them. So it's getting into that must-have list because it's blocking me from doing what's already on my must-have list, which is work and parent.
Yeah. So what I would suggest.
So it's interesting.
Move. Don't put the task there. Put the result. Think about the result, right? Like, you know, like why is it that like after people have a heart attack, suddenly they can eat properly, but before that, they can't imagine how to not eat, you know, like the way they eat, right?
Yeah.
And because what they put in the list is not like not have a heart attack, it's not die, right? You're probably putting the wrong thing in the bucket, right? Like what you're putting is like work out.
I'm still here.
Right? Which nobody cares. Like working out is not the thing. It's have the energy. Like remember what you get when you work out, right? Like have a day without a migraine. Okay, what's the things I do to make that happen? Those are the first things on my list.
Yeah,
right?
It's true.
And you'll move. You can resort your list pretty quickly if you do it that way. But if you make it the task, like literally the task may be shitty. Like why would it? Like most people won't want to do a lot of the tasks they have to do, right? Like but it's the outcome that you're investing in, not like the task itself, right?
Yeah. And that's where like this is where now like where I inject fun into the challenges is how do you allow yourself to have fun inside of these experiences where like aesthetically it doesn't look fun, right? Like we love the sexy results but aren't willing to necessarily do the unsexy work that gets us there. But how do we balance that? How do we integrate, you know, the joy of the accomplishment within getting to the accomplishment? So in your case, Marcella, like a story that you can create that would serve you is like, if I don't exercise and do yoga, my capacity to be the amazing businesswoman, the amazing mom that I know I can be becomes limited. It becomes compromised, right? So the very things that you value the most now become compromised because you're not doing those things. And all of a sudden you're like, oh shit, crap. Like, like I got to make sure this happens. This is what changed my life. Cause it's like, if I don't take care of myself first, then it's very likely if I keep up, I'm going to end up divorced and having shared custody of my daughter. Like I put that story in my mind to make sure that I did that. Like, will that actually happen? I don't know. Like, it was close to happening with the direction I was going for sure. And now I still hold on to that because it's not going to happen tomorrow, but it's the habit of doing it every day that would lead to that. right? And so it's the things that I value most all of a sudden now don't become as important because they'll all crumble because I haven't done this one thing for me first. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
We probably got like, let's do like maybe like 8 more minutes. We'll cut it 4:10. Sorry, unfortunately have a stream of Brad Pitt starting.
I'm like, what?
I'm like,
the other Brad felt. Yeah. So at 4:30 today, I have a stream starting with Denver founders. So if you want to hear Brad Feld on the state of startups and the ecosystem, please tune into that. But what I was going to say is, we're entering this part also where we have to be careful because there's this phrase I always use or talk about often, like from that sort of like nirvana is samsara, that whole like Zen Buddhist sort of state saying, and the whole idea of it really is just that like loose translation is that like heaven is like everyday life, right? Like it was like why it's sort of like you shouldn't try to get into heaven, like, but you should appreciate the heaven you have today, right? And I think the challenge that represents to us as we look forward is as whatever environmental restraints have been put on us ease, right? It is equally easy to sort of to feel like you can't do the things you were able to do because those constraints are gone, right? And so it's kind of like when animals, like if you leave them in a cage too long, they're scared to come out. Like even you can open the door and they won't come out. We got to be careful not to like feel like, well, I was only that way because I was in quarantine or something. But now that I'm not that way anymore, I don't, those things don't matter. Now, maybe you replace them with different versions of those things. That's one thing. But there are going to be things you learn here now, and that's important.
Yeah. And then like, once you are able to find those things and they become, habits, which then become which end up becoming part of who you are, then when the environment and the conditions change, there's no sense of needing to change with that, right? You already have that foundation set in place. And at that point, now you just get to scale your efforts, and that's what it becomes really awesome to see how quickly things can ramp up once that foundation's in place within the given conditions that we're in. Yeah.
One of the things I appreciate most, and not just about my own findings, but even listening to Kevin, is found time, right? So even simple things like, why did I make going to Sam's Club a priority when they have free shipping, right? We weren't using it because we were just going to Sam's Club because it was bulk buying, right? But now that it's getting delivered and, you've got this like massive bag of bird food sitting on your front step that's like huge, you think, why didn't I do this before? That would have given me or gifted me that piece of heaven, Greg, as you're saying, with my kids, it's an extra 2 hours. Like, I hope many of those habits will stay. I think we learned that, yes, we may lose X number of hours commuting, but there are ways to get those things back. And what I like, about this conversation is the thought about, okay, so what are we putting in place to improve yourself within that time frame? Because you're right. All I've done is added more work hours or added more kid projects because I have, rather than add this beneficial thing that I did used to love to do before, I had the 2 kids or before I had all these other things going on. It was a priority and I was able to do that back then. I just haven't added it back in.
Yeah. And oftentimes what we do is like, it's like a give and a take, right? In order for me to give time this way, then time has to be taken away elsewhere. And my belief is like what we really are looking to achieve more than money and status and power is actually time affluence. Like we want to have this affluence of time to do what really makes us happy.
Yep.
Right. But like, I've been able to see this, that like the time that you give to yourself or sometimes you got to take it. Right. Found time is great and gifted time is great, but sometimes you got to take that time. Because if you're not taking it, someone or something else might be taking that time away from you too. But when you do that, everything else in your life that you thought you needed to put all that time into all of a sudden become more efficient, right? Like your kids are still going to get those craft projects, right? Like you're still going to, do well in your business, and it may not require the amount of time that you think it does.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Because your mind's going to be in a totally different place after you've worked out and after you've taken care of yourself and done all those things. Your mind just automatically be like, I did that. Bring it. Bring the day. I'm gonna do all this, and I'm going to, read a story to my kids before bed, and I'm gonna be there for dinner, and I'm gonna spend time and play with them because you can.
Yeah. So my last quick question is: do either of you have a favorite of those, 10-minute apps or 15-minute interval? There's so many of them. I went on and actually started looking, and there's just so many of them. I would love any recommendations on kind of how to squeeze my way into that time by starting with short time frames and then building up if you have them.
Do you want to share, Greg?
No, you go first.
Are you looking specifically for like working out or for like routines?
No, routine it's all working out because the rest I've
Yeah.
got fine. For me, it's, an easy guide into the working out piece.
Yeah. So I personally like the 7-minute workout.
Okay.
Right. That's like interval based, high intensity interval training, 7 minutes, hits all parts of your body. That is done for you. Right. So you don't have to think of like what to do. It tells you what to do. It's 7 minutes long. And you can build on top of that. So they have the app is available. You can download the app. And then if you want to do more, you can just literally say, I want to do 10 minutes or I want to increase to 8 minutes, and they'll just add more stuff. And then eventually, like once the habit's in place, then you start doing whatever you want, but that's how I started off with.
Okay.
Because,
Yeah. By the way, I would say, if you're the kind of person who needs an external motivator, there's tons of like free classes now, like, and all kinds of stuff, like where you could, like my wife does a streaming thing, like on her phone, like, 2-3 times a week. There's lots of those, like everywhere, like yoga studios are giving away like free yoga classes, like all kinds of folks, just like, or you could pay like a small amount of money and like buy like programs, but like individuals now, not like Peloton level, but just like small sessions are happening. And if for me personally, like I don't like doing cardio or HIIT routines in general, so like that doesn't usually work.
That's me too, right?
But if you're into that, you got a pair of dumbbells, and sometimes just having somebody else, like even one of my old coaches, one of my own trainers from SF, he just started doing them on Zoom. He's like, hey, here's the link. He posts it on Facebook, and it's like once a week or something, I would say just get, it's like the classic, like learning how to juggle. Just get 1 day a week to start and then work your way up.
All right. That's what I'll start measuring. I'll check in with you guys next Wednesday and see how many check marks I got.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, I apologize that we do have to end early today. It's always fun, but Thomas, maybe we'll try and do it next week. We'll see. Like, you got cut short.
Yeah.
If we have a specific topic, I have a couple of friends that I told about this program, but it would help me just think through who to invite to have fun.
We don't really have specific topics.
So do you, like today was just coincidental that we started with this?
It's always life.
Okay.
So like, whatever.
I've got a couple of people that are probably going to join us.
Like if they come and they want to talk about something, trust me, we'll talk about it. Like,
nothing's off the table.
Okay, good.
Off the table for sure. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Thanks, everyone. I will
see you next week.
In 20 minutes with another stream, actually with Brad Feld and Chris Franks. So if you want, please stick around or just tune back in a not too long. All right, bye.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, man.